Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for anybody who's been listening to this, besides me anyway. This will be chapter 3, so let's just get started. Chapter 3. You're a wizard, Rollie. It was a routine day at the Vita household when Rollie went to check the mail as he usually did. He perused the letters and found a very unusual looking thick letter made of parchment, addressed in green ink, addressed to him. He'd gotten letters from his grandparents, usually cash, American, since his mums were, and their parents, still lived there. But he'd never gotten a letter from someone not a relative. It was so odd, he went straight to his mums to show them. "Look at this, mums. I've got an interesting letter. It's really thick and has a coat of arms on the seal." Sure enough, there was a badger, an eagle, a snake, and a lion on the crest of the seal. "Interesting. It doesn't have a return address, and it marks which bedroom you have. Whoever it is knows you a bit too well," a skeptical Amber replied. "Read it to us, dear," Allison suggested before Amber could worry too much. Rollie opened up the letter and read, "Dear Mr. Vita, we are pleased to inform you that you've been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry." It was an absolute surprise. Rollie J. Vita was a wizard. The mom's eyes shot up and they became amused. "Is this a joke, dear?" Rollie was known to pull a prank. "No, I just found it with the other letters. Could it be true? Could there be magic?" A day later, Professor Minerva McGonagall arrived and proved it to the family, who recalled several instances of weird things happening. Rollie was beyond excited and had so many questions. The professor provided a pamphlet for Muggleborns and explained the basics of Hogwarts. First and foremost, it was a boarding school. He'd miss his friends, sure, but he'd learn more ways to protect people. He knew he'd be sad most of all to leave his mums, and he could tell they were sad already too. They just got him 6 years ago, and he'd miss Hermione. He hoped he could at least write to her if he went away. "It's some kind of boarding school. Our Rollie gone for 9 months a year." Tears drew up in their eyes, and Rollie, he quickly spoke up. "I don't want to leave, but think about what this could teach me. I promise to write every day. I promise, I promise. The first thing I'll research is how to speak to you magically, or see you every day too. I love you more than anything, and I'll always be a Vita." The professor just watched in silence. She had a nagging feeling this boy looked familiar, and 6 years ago Dumbledore let slip they lost track of Harry. A boy with a head full of messy black hair that looked remarkably like James, but had green eyes, had been adopted. She told Dumbledore about those horrible muggles, but she guessed it ended up alright now that he was with a new family. She wouldn't tell anyone this was Harry, not even Dumbledore, if Rollie didn't want it. She had to inform the family, though. "Excuse me, I must interrupt and let you know what Mr. Rita will be facing when he comes to our world." The threesome looked to her from a group hug. "I apologize if this is an odd or sensitive topic, but is this Harry Potter?" Rollie had only heard that name a few times at the home and vaguely remembered it. That was Rollie's name when we adopted him. He never used it much, so we fashioned him a new one to bond with our family. He won't ever be called Harry again. Amber was stern at the end of that statement. "Of course. I just wanted to verify and tell you that Harry Potter will be expected to be returning to the Wizarding World this year, and he's the most famous wizard alive today." She told them his history of his parents. She even summoned photos, letting him keep one. She told them how he was very famous and saved the world from evil, that Dumbledore left him with the Dursleys and she tried to talk him out of it. Finally, she told Rollie to watch out for him. He was a manipulator and didn't understand things not going his own way. He should form his own opinions and avoid people wanting to defend the boy who lived. "We've raised Rollie to think for himself, so that won't be a problem. You're strong, aren't you, my boy?" Allison looked at him expectantly. Without hesitation, he replied enthusiastically. "That's right, Mum. I can handle it, Professor. We appreciate your candor and honesty. First year, I'm just looking forward to learning new things and gaining new friends. New experiences and wisdom to be gained. That's what life is about." "Wonderful, Mr. Vita. If you will come with me this Saturday, another first year is coming shopping for supplies. I will escort you and them to where you can purchase these items, and the Wizarding Bank to exchange money and gain access to any vault you may have inherited." The stern professor explained how they used different money in the Wizarding world and had a shopping area hidden away in London. Everyone agreed and bid her farewell. The last thing she mentioned was about the statute of secrecy. It was against the law to tell any non-magical about the Wizarding world and magic. Rollie deflated, wondering what he'd tell Hermione. He knew she'd ask to come if he just said he was going to boarding school. Plus, it was Hermione. She'd want all the details. The family spoke into the night about how crazy this all was, but it was a new adventure in the waiting, and Rollie loved an adventure. It was almost 10 years since the Dursleys found the bundle on their doorstep, and they couldn't be happier, even with all the trouble they went through, having Dudley back with them and no Harry. They could go back to being 100% normal. The newly fashioned Rollie was also extremely happy to be away from the Dursleys, and with those he considered family the past 6 years, and he'd just found that he was a wizard. Him. Simple Rollie was special. He'd never done anything too crazy because no one was bullying him since leaving that hellish place. He was a fine young man raised by loving parents, and so had an intense sense of self developed in those 6 years. He was ready to face any fame that might come up, or anyone trying to call him Harry Potter. He wasn't Harry. He was Rollie, and whoever they were expecting wasn't going to be showing up anytime soon, to their utter disappointment. True to her word, Professor McGonagall came that Saturday to take Rollie along with another first-year Muggle-born to Diagon Alley, the magical shopping area in London. Amber, Allison, and Rollie had their first experience in apparition inside along with the professor. They waited in the leaky cauldron for her to appear with the other family. With the pup, she came with the young girl first, bushy, brown hair and eyes. Rollie rushed over as the professor popped back out to say hi and pull her to the side, since the professor always showed up at the same place. "Hermione, I can't believe it. I was dreading what I was going to tell you about this. This is perfect. We're going together." Hermione was speechless. She was also upset about having to leave Rollie behind. She was already overjoyed at being a wizard. Now that she knew she wouldn't be alone and she'd have her best friend, she was over the moon. "I can't believe it. I'm beyond excited now." Hermione just looked into Rollie's glowing emerald green eyes with extreme joy. The Vitas and Grangers hugged once the professor brought them all to the leaky cauldron. McGonagall couldn't believe they knew each other already, but were happy they'd have someone to accompany them on their new journey. They all followed the professor to the back alley of the bar, where she tapped the brick wall in a specific pattern and it opened to Diagon Alley. All 6 guests' eyes and mouths opened wide at the hustle and bustle they saw there, and the many things floating and obviously controlled via unnatural means. "This is amazing." Allison burst out first, and they all nodded in agreement. McGonagall ushered everyone forward and pointed out the shops important for class as she walked them over to the Wizarding Bank Gringotts. Hermione was still staring back at the bookstore they passed, and Rollie just laughed a little at her enthusiasm good-naturedly. "So, since we have a bit of different circumstance for you both, I will escort the Grangers to the new accounts counter, Mr. Vita over to have his blood tested to see if he has any existing vaults." The professor tried to be vague in explanation as not to give away Rollie's identity. "Oh, can I have my blood tested also? Just to see. Can't pass up a chance to learn more about myself." Hermione exclaimed. "That sounds like a great idea, Hermione. Why don't you go first?" Rollie suggested, since he understood perfectly what the professor was trying to do. Hermione nodded and walked up to the area McGonagall pointed out without apprehension. "Hello, sir. I'd like to do a blood origin test to see if I have any family vaults." The goblin sharpnut looked down at her condescendingly, but nodded. He pulled out a needle and waited for her to present her finger to him. He poked her finger as soon as it reached him, and she flinched a little but did not make a sound. The goblin stuck the needle into the family history charmed parchment and waited. It could take a minute or so if the magical lineage was very far removed. After 2 minutes, a name started to appear. Pendragon. Sharpnut's eyes widened as much as they could, and he came down to her and bowed slightly. "Your name, miss?" He grinned. "Hermione Granger." She looked on and back at her parents' surprise. She hadn't expected anything to come of the test. "Miss Granger, the last scion of the House Pendragon, it is an honor to be in your presence. May your gold multiply. There has been a long wait to locate a Pendragon. You do indeed have a very substantial vault here at the bank. May I present your account manager, Grimly?" Another goblin rushed over and bowed slightly. "This way, Miss Granger. I will show you and your family to the vault." They were ushered away and waved quickly to Rollie, giving him a look that said she'd ask what happened to him afterward. The professor couldn't believe the Muggleborn actually was related to any ancient house, and had a vault no one had claimed in over 1,000 years. Luckily, Mr. Vita had suggested she go first. This could cause quite an uproar, among other things, of the 2 children she had with her today. "I guess it's your turn, Mr. Vita." Alison looked in anticipation of what would be the history of Harry Potter. Rollie nodded and moved forward, presenting his finger right away. "Hello, sir. Same treatment for the blood test, if you please." The goblin complied. If they had a Pendragon among the group, who knew who else was here? He pricked his finger and applied the needles to the page. The names came up in a second this time, starting with Potter, Black, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, Slytherin, and finally Merlin. If one thought a goblin's eyes couldn't pop, they'd be wrong. The same with all the adults present. Wow, Merlin was real? I've read of Arthur and the Round Table. That means Hermione and mine's ancestors are friends. That means we're destined to be best friends. I'm not sure who the rest of those are. I mean, I know Potter, since my name used to be Harry Potter, but the rest I haven't a clue. The goblin came down, and as he did, gasped. "You're Harry Potter, sir?" "That was my name, yes, before I was adopted to Vita. You can call me Rollie." He gasped again, as a wizard rarely treated goblins so kindly. "Of course, Mr. Rollie. I can escort you to our director, Ragnarok. Your lineage has about 20 volts, and you can discuss what you'd like to do with our highest position, and he'd most like to meet you, I am sure." Rollie just nodded and followed the goblin, and was followed behind by his parents and the professor. At the door, Sharpnut stopped her and told her unfortunately only family should enter there. She nodded and told him she'd wait for Miss Granger on the floor and they'd do shopping, and she'd meet him back in the alley afterward at the bookshop. They waited as the goblin knocked at the director's office. "Enter!" a booming voice was heard. "Good afternoon, Director Ragnarok. I'm sorry to disturb you, but I knew you'd want to meet the heir to Potter, Black, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, Slytherin, and Merlin right away to help him discuss finances. This is Mr. Rollie Vita, a.k.a. Harry Potter." Ragnarok couldn't believe what he was hearing, but knew no goblin would dare spout such nonsense if it hadn't been tested and proven. So he restrained his amazement and just nodded, coming forward to meet Mr. Vita. "Hello, sir. Welcome to Gringotts. It is an honor to serve you as one of our most prestigious patrons. You have several vaults, and so I imagine you would like to discuss a little what to do there, and let's make introductions. I'm Director Ragnarok, in charge of Gringotts Bank." "Good afternoon, Director Ragnarok. I'm Rollie Vita, and these are my parents, my mums, Alison Vita and Amber Vita. It is a pleasure to meet you, sir. Yes, we can go into the vault situation a little, but I'm sure a well-established bank such as this has done well in maintaining the accounts. Since I'm very young still, I'd like to leave most to the bank now, if possible." Ragnarok grinned scarily and nodded heavily. "Yes, sir, that is very kind of you to say. If you aren't too worried as of now, the Potters left a trust vault for their son, and so you should be well taken care of for all your school needs with this vault. It is overflowing on its own, is more than enough to cover all school expenses at any point. If you wish to know more of your vaults, let me know, and I'll be your account manager, and I'm at your disposal. Today, we can give you access to the vault, a debit card for any Muggle expenses you may incur, a full listing of your holdings and property, sir, to review at your leisure." "Sounds perfect, Director Ragnarok. Thank you kindly. I'll review with my parents over the school year. How am I to contact you if we decide to access any vaults or change any preferences we may have? Rollie sensibly asked, his parents glowing with pride at how much of an adult he was being in this situation with such strange creatures. Excellent question, Mr. Vita. May I suggest a few things, since you seem to be new to the wizarding world as well? Rollie just nodded, and the goblin continued. First, we can set up a goblin mailbox communication system. You will take a box that connects directly to our bank, and we can accept and send out any correspondence and check for any ill-intent objects being sent. Second, we suggest you file for emancipation so no one else can control your vault but you and anyone you give permission to. Third, we can provide warding for your current residents to also provide safety and hide it from anyone you like to hide it from. You are a celebrity and very rich. Also provide you port keys to be able to travel here to the bank on emergency or just if you need to. All very good suggestions. You must remind, I want my family protected above all else, so that mail-in warding system sounds very good, as well as the port keys for my mums if they're ever under attack. I don't care what the cost is. If you say I'm rich, as I am, and your help with the paperwork and the emancipation would be greatly appreciated. I want my mum's names on all my vaults and any debit cards you provide, please. Aren't they considered my guardians? Ragnarok smiled and nodded animatedly. In the magical world, only a magical person can be your guardian, so if you get emancipated, you can be your own guardian and have full control over your affairs rather than someone you don't even know. It will all be done. Here are the debit cards and the box shrunken. Once you have your wand, a tap will allow you to change the size of whatever you are mailing, and it will arrive here instantaneously. They went through the paperwork, and Rollie named his mom as benefactor, and Hermione, since it had to be a magical person. They scheduled the warding for their home and were given port keys. Rollie and his mom stood and shook the director's hand and bowed slightly before leaving. They learned to imitate customs quickly. Rollie turned back, thinking of one last question. Director, before I go, is there a book on goblin customs and learning the language? The ponytail boy looked on expectantly. Ragnarok fell to his seat wide-eyed. I'm sorry, did I offend you? A reason I like the book to avoid that. The director breathed in and pulled himself together. Not at all, I apologize. You just caught me off guard. Not even your parents asked about that, and they were the nicest wizards I ever met. I guess that isn't true anymore. Wizards tend to treat us as second-class citizens, so you've caught me completely off guard. I'm happy about it. Yes, I can provide you books on the goblin language and offer you a language tutor if you'd like. Ragnarok wondered what else he could possibly be surprised by today. Oh, wonderful. Do you suggest any other tutors? I think since I have so much, a financial one would be good. Indeed, Mr. Vita, I suggest swordplay and weaponry tutoring, potions tutoring, magical defense tutoring, and yes, financial would be some of the expertise goblins have, and we'd be happy to offer. Cool. How about 2 a year? Say, like, language first part of first year, swordplay in the second half. I need to keep up my physical activity at Hogwarts. Ragnarok nodded and smiled. Excellent, sir. I'll arrange the best times with your deputy headmistress. Rollie jumped up and down, excited to learn even more, waving goodbye to the director as they went out the doors, opened by goblin guards for them, reverence pouring off them now. Mums, I want to get my wand first for sure. An excited Rollie ran toward the wand shop. He stepped to the door and heard the bell ring. It was dark and a bit ominous, but his mums were right behind him, so he felt it should be okay. I think this is where we'll end it this time. 20 minutes is a bit long to upload audio and to read at once. So this will be part 1 of chapter 3, and part 2 of chapter 3 will be next time. Thanks anyone who's listening. Have a good day.